Hi, everyone. I see everyone's just starting to trickle in. All right, cool. Hi, guys. So welcome to our webinar today. We have some really cool topics to cover. Just before diving in and passing it off to our presenters, you'll see that we have the chat and the Q&A tab. We will take your questions live at the end of the webinar. So throughout, just go ahead and post your questions to the Q&A and we will address those. So without further ado, I'll pass the presentation over to Jean-Louis.
Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. I'm super sorry for my voice because I'm a bit sick. Kids gave me the flu, and that's okay. That's kids, you know. But that's a reason. It's not a reason to not do the webinar with Lily. And I would like to thank you, Lily, for taking the time to join us. We're going to talk about end-to-end voice agents today. We're going to talk about the way we can combine speech-to-text, text-to-speech, and LLMs in the middle. And Lily is definitely the person to have on the stage. So on the agenda, deep dive in TTS. Lily is going to present RHYME, how TTS works, what are the pitfalls that you can fall into. We're going to talk a little bit about STT, of course, and then we're going to talk about the full pipeline. And the last part, and I would suggest that everyone stay there, is probably one of the most important when you talk about building voice agents, is finding the PMF and scaling. Both Lily and I have quite a experience regarding this topic because we have multiple numbers of customers on speech-to-text on our side, but Lily on text-to-speech. And we see some patterns among the startups, among the company, even like more mature company. And we see some patterns emerging, and I think we are in the right place to share those feedbacks to help you scale your business, also not only talking about tech. Joining me today, Lily Clifford, who's based in California. We had the chance to meet in the past. She's brilliant, making an amazing product, RHYME, and I'll let you introduce yourself, Lily, if you don't mind.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jean-Louis, and the Gladia team. I come from a speech technology background. I started my PhD at Stanford in 2018, doing voice AI model research. I actually at the time was doing speech-to-text research for low resource languages. So imagine Punjabi, Tamil, right, Marathi, languages for which there are very little available data. And we'll talk a lot about data, I'm sure, during this webinar. And data is really central to the story of RHYME, because if you look at the products, right, the text-to-speech products that are built, developed, and served by, not just the hyperscalers, but other startups in the space, right? Like the thing that's unique about RHYME is that we started by collecting the world's largest proprietary, and we continue to collect this data, proprietary data set of conversational speech. So as opposed to a voice actor in the context of, right, like reading an audiobook, or someone who's on a podcast, or someone who is a YouTube creator, right, like taking that data and training on that, the really amazing thing about modeling is as it gets more powerful, and it has, we've all seen this, these models are better able to reproduce the underlying characteristics of the training data. That's what a model does. And so we started training models, I would say about a year and a half, 2 years ago, on the basis of this data that we collected, and have been really lucky, extremely lucky, to ride a very fast moving technology adoption curve. We started collecting this data pre-ChatGPT. The term frontier lab did not exist. I mean, Google DeepMind existed, but that was pretty much the only thing around. And yeah, I'm super excited to be here and talk about some of the intricacies, because as models get more powerful, it doesn't mean that there's not trade-offs, right? And yeah, very, very happy to be here. Thank you so much, Jean-Louis.
Hi, you're welcome. So happy to have you. I think we share many things among TTS and speech-to-text, even if there are some fundamental difference. One being input and output, and the things we can negotiate on and the things we can't negotiate on, both on our cases. But what we've seen in the past, and when we were preparing the slides, we had a common understanding of the voice ecosystem, the fact that general purpose voice models are neither accurate or secure, nor secure for enterprise. It's hard to put them directly in front of the customer out of the box. Not criticizing like open source model, that's one thing, but it's dealing with enterprise is way more than that. This is why you need to specialize some models for enterprise. And Rhyme has been like one of the leader, if not the leader in the voice space for that. And I'm sure you can list some of the issues that you run into while running off-the-shelf models or like dealing with customers having off-the-shelf models. Would you be able to share some anecdotes on this?
Oh, I mean, it's kind of, I mean, it's fascinating, right? Like, again, Rhyme has grown a lot. Other startups in the space have grown a lot over the last 2 years. And, you know, I think the pushback from, you know, both investors and customers often, right? And in myself too, right? Like in moments of self-doubt, I think maybe these models will truly get good enough that like the problems that our customers are trying to solve for today, and those problems are very specific problems, right? Happy to get into what those problems are. There's this thought that like the general purpose models will get strong enough that there will be no place for Rhyme. And it's wild how much that hasn't occurred yet, right? And so just to give you an example, it's one thing for a model to be fast and for it to be lifelike, right? On the speech synthesis side, it's another thing for it to be accuracy, to be accurate. And I often feel like the things that scale solves for are in many ways quality and speed, but not necessarily accuracy. And so just to give you an example, some of the earliest adopters of Rhyme were in restaurant ordering. And we'll talk about vertical voice applications in just a little bit. But when you're, right, like building a voice agent that's taking an order for Domino's, I don't know how to like, that sounds like a small problem, but it's an enormous problem to get the speech synthesis model to produce the words pizza extravaganza correctly 100% of the time. It's one thing, right? Like, you know, to go into a web app and if you're making like voiceover for like a Chipotle video advertisement, you want to use TTS and you put in like Chipotle is the best burrito ever. Being from California, I would disagree. But what you find, right, is that these general purpose models that are more geared towards the consumer use cases are going to mispronounce Chipotle 30% of the time. And that's not a problem if you're creating static content, right? But when you're powering, and the average Rhyme customer is powering hundreds of thousands of phone calls a day, you have to pronounce Chipotle 100% correctly every single time if you're powering phone ordering for Chipotle. And so I would say like the vertical real-time enterprise niche, and for what it's worth, that's the largest niche. It sounds funny to call it a vertical, like a niche within the modeling space, because I mean, I think we all know there's billions and billions of phone calls happening worldwide all the time. And the other learning besides accurate speech synthesis is secure speech synthesis. The nexus of those things, there's very few players that can deliver you an on-prem self-hosted TTS model that is lifelike, accurate, and has the level of customizability you need, such that if you're powering, right, like tech support for McAfee security, you would be surprised at how rare it is to get a TTS model that can pronounce McAfee correctly. And then to be able to deliver that in a container so that you can run it, because of course, McAfee, if McAfee is your customer, doesn't want any of that information that you're sending the TTS model to be sent over cloud. So that for me is the most exciting thing, that a startup like Gladia or Rhyme can serve some of the largest enterprises in the world, because no one else is solving this problem at the next thing.
Agree with you. It's underestimated statement accuracy. Everyone is talking about or real. Those things are sounding, like you said, like you were talking about having some actors and things like that, which sometimes can be a bit weird also over the phone. It's not super like natural. It's over natural sometimes. But there are not that many players that talks about accuracy, and most of them are talking about quality and speed, but not accuracy. So, and this is where Gladia and Rhyme are kind of landing on the same part. You always have some trade-offs to be done, and we're going to talk about the trade-off afterward. But I do align 100% on you, and you can't negotiate basically with accuracy. And I will just give you some numbers for the people that are around to give you one tiny things and how it can change at an enterprise scale. So I would just talk quickly about speech to text, but very quickly. It's not like the purpose of selling speech to text. But when you do speech understanding, if you get the emotion right, and you guide the agents towards the appropriate emotion, you have 30% chance to reduce the churn. 30% chance. And we're just talking about emotion recognition. So just imagine if you are voice agents and you can't pronounce the product appropriately. How much do you think you're going to lose in your orders? It's going to be insane. So just tiny things in the understanding of the voice, tiny things in the way you pronounce can have massive impact in the conversion. So that was like probably the way I would say we have the most like convergence with Rhyme in this philosophy around.
I mean, I think the through line is very simple, right? Like good enough isn't good enough. There is no good enough. Like these products need to be better.
I agreed. And I tend to sometimes say about text to speech, something that about the general text to speech, exactly what you said, like general purpose model. There's something with speech to text you can't negotiate with quality because you have the ground truth. Someone actually spoke something and you can't negotiate. Like if I spell Lily with 2 L, people's gonna yell at me. And it's actually happening. Some customers there, probably in the chat. And when they say that, and I'm usually saying, okay, if I tell you my name is Jean-Louis and I can tell you my last name, Keguiner, can you spell it? It's like 99% chance that you're gonna spell it with a mistake. It's like AI. So the thing is that you can't negotiate with the truth. Usually TTS players, they negotiate with the truth because you have multiple ways to say the things, except that when it comes to enterprise segment, there is only one way to say the product is the right one. You can't negotiate with that. So exactly what you said, if I get a TikTok dubbing that is wrong, that's okay, that's a TikTok video, right? If you get an order wrong 1/3 of the time, then your revenue is going to drop. You're going to be kicked out of the company. So I like the fact that probably you're the only person in the TTS space talking about this subject, while everyone is talking about realism and humanized TTS.
Agreed.
No, it's your time. What a good voice agent needs is a TTS.
Yeah, happy to. I mean, I think there's a lot of product marketing that goes into this webinar. For what it's worth, is product marketing for Rhyme, but it's also a chance to share my thoughts, which is not always possible, right? In generic product and content marketing. There is a huge importance to things like latency and quality, right? Like just as an example, so we power a lot of, again, fast food ordering. And when our customer ConverseNow that powers phone ordering for Domino's, I think it's 45% of all Domino's in North America now have AI phone ordering, and it's accounting, I believe, please don't quote me on this, but I believe it's accounting for something like 8% of Domino's total revenue is over the phone ordering. What they find when ConverseNow switches from Microsoft TTS, which for what it's worth, I think is probably the best hyperscaler TTS, to Rhyme, the likelihood of someone finishing that order, because Rhyme is A, faster than Microsoft from a latency perspective, and B, more lifelike. And of course, we can debate what lifelike means. I think it's worthwhile having that debate, but you can't argue with the fact that when they switch from Microsoft to Rhyme, that the likelihood of that order completing increases by 20%. So like, you can look at Domino's revenue, right? And again, like the team at ConverseNow is building not just with Rhyme, but many other technologies, right? Rhyme doesn't account for the success of ConverseNow. They're a really strong team. And at the same time, right, like small things like that can make a huge difference. And why does the perception, I mean, we're building like, I think this is really underappreciated. Like people are building an experience. That's why we call it customer experience. And so if the turn taking is too slow, right, it feels weird. It feels like not a conversation. And if it doesn't feel lifelike, it also doesn't feel normal. People hang up. I mean, quite honestly, like the one thing that I think is really interesting about this technology adoption curve that we're all in is that if you talk to a customer of the largest horizontal, right, conversational AI platforms today, what they see is no improvement in call containment over the solution that they had previously, like prior to LLM-based calling, which is sad, but it's sad but true, right? There are $10 billion companies today that are building agents that are not performing legacy IVR. They sound better. They still have the problem that 40% of people who call them hang up immediately.
How would you explain that? What's the main root cause for this?
I think one part of it is consumer expectation, right? Like people expect these applications to be bad, and that behavior will take a long time to change, unfortunately.
So you think it's too good? That's your point. They'd rather have a robot than having a human-like something, TTS?
I think they just expect a bad application. When you call and you hear TTS, like generic TTS, right? Like professional voice actor TTS, you hang up. Like
Okay.
quite literally.
Okay, so you say professional voice actor that are like forcing their voice to be overacted or whatever. Is it what you mean?
That is largely what I mean, right? Like so
Okay.
like one of our customers, right, builds an incredible voice agent. Say it's in banking, right? Like it can do literally anything you want. Like the reason why you're calling, it can solve that problem, right? And there's a reason why you're calling. And if you hang up after the first thing that the agent says, right, you hear the TTS and you hang up, guess what? They're not going to get to experience that application, right? And overwhelmingly, right, like overwhelmingly, every point of data that we have at Rhyme shows that if you hear the like professional voice actor TTS, you are more likely to hang up than if you hear, like, I'm not joking, like the most bored, least expressive voice possible.
You know, it's remind me of one study that Google made. Was it a few months ago? Maybe a year ago, something like that. They showed that people were having a better net promoter score. So you had a routing system, right? The IVR, and you have a STT, TTS, whatever that is doing the IVR, okay? And they show that people have a better NPS if you change the voice from one generalist, like welcoming agent, even if it's AI. Say, I'm an AI, blah, blah, blah. I will solve your problem. What's your problem? My problem is billing. I say, okay, I'm going to pass you to the agents, the other AI, and you just don't change the engine. You just change the voice, right? Hey, hi, I'm George. I'm the specialist in billing. It's the same brain, not the same voice, not the same name. People have a better NPS.
Yeah.
Human brain is weird. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and I think, like, in all honesty, people are still building these applications like with the design expectation that they are an IVR, right? And the most innovative Rhyme customers are doing things like that. They're also doing things like putting 40 different voices into production and seeing which one reduces the likelihood of someone abandoning the call. And that's what excites me the most, is like the experimental possibilities of these voice applications are really underappreciated today.
Absolutely.
I mean, at the end of the day, right, like you want someone to call and feel like they're welcomed, right? They're heard. And for better or worse, like you talk to any Rhyme customer and they have a lot of problems, right? Technical problems. There remain a lot of technical problems. And I'm sure you'll talk about some of those on the STT side. But, right, if you're a conversational AI platform and you're putting a voice application in front of a prospect, right, like 95% of the, the perception of the quality of the application comes to the TTS. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's sad because we solve for this, but it's also true. And so, yeah, I think our mission is just to improve the willingness for someone to stay on the phone and then also solve a lot of the last mile problems that come when you're building, again, like a high volume enterprise calling application. So with that, like, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. This is just like some general thoughts on TTS.
No, I do agree. I think people that are building voice agents right now, or companies that are building voice agents, I think there should be, the first thing I would do is like measure and partner with people like Rock or like people doing like A/B testing in voice to measure conversion rates. It's going to come to A/B testing in the end. I think voice is the same thing as ads at some point.
Yeah.
People spend a lot of money on A/B testing, for instance, for the web ads and messaging and stuff like that. And the reason is because 1% at large volume is making a big difference. And I think voice is the same. There are hundreds of billions of hours every year that are being talked in the call centers. And 1% is making a huge difference in the business. So we have to act the same way. Everything needs to be measured. It's not about how it looks like, the realism, the emotions. It's about numbers and facts and conversions. And sometimes you have unusual patterns, and that's it. That's life, and you need to accept it. So I do agree 100% on you. It's just about like science and A/B testing in the end.
Yeah, awesome, cool. Yeah.
So going into STT then, on my side, I have some thoughts and some feedbacks from actual customers that we had and seeing the conversion they were having with their own customers. And what we found is that you have multiple types of calls. You have the inbound and the outbound. And Lily, please like stop me or react every time you have something because you have a great experience in this domain. But what I saw is like the call type between inbound and outbound is absolutely being determining the quality you're going to have. If it's an inbound code, most of the time there are some special cases, but most of the time you don't exactly have the pure context. Someone's going to call and it's going to, as you said, like the pizza. I don't even know how to say what you said, like the pizza name. But when you're doing inbound, you don't know what the person wants. Do they want like cheese stick, or do they want a pizza or pasta or whatever? When you're doing an outbound, you're confirming something and you already have the vocabulary, and you are restricting the, I would say, the entropy in the system in some ways, the level of like possible solutions. And so what we see, like, first thing is like the quality is going to matter and the configuration is going to matter, and the use case needs to be defined. The second thing is like we saw that the latency tolerance is a bit different depending on the use case, and depending if it's inbound or outbound. And what we've seen was super interesting. If you're in the bank sector, for instance, usually people making an outbound call, they're usually more tolerant to wait because you say, hey, I'm a bit slow, but I'm checking your bills, I'm checking the refund. People are willing to wait like 1 second, that's okay. But when you're doing like outbound calls with ads and trying to convince someone, then there is no negotiation around the speed. So what we've seen is like sometimes you need like better quality, more speed, more precision sometimes. So difference between quality and precision is something that I say, but it's not like in the literature. But basically the quality is overall, are you good overall? But the precision to me is how good you are with the specific item, how accurate you are with the specific item that the person wants, the first name, last name, product name, addresses, emails, etc. That's the things that actually matter. So you can say, hey, I'm 99% accurate, but the only thing I get wrong is your first name. Okay, I'm happy, but you won't do something great with the product because you will break up the CRM, you can break up like all the automations and all these things.
I can tell you like a concrete example of this is an extremely large hotel chain building a voice application. They know that so the first thing they ask is, can I get your first and last name, obviously? And they know that if they say, the voice agent says someone's first name, like, thank you for calling Jean-Louis, that person is more likely to finish their booking on the phone.
What, just repeating the name?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Since human brain is fantastic.
And so like, imagine if you can't, you're like, you didn't transcribe it correctly and you can't pronounce it correctly, or both, right?
So we had some cases where one customer of us came building a voice agents, and they were with one of the competition competition provider, and basically he gave us the recording of one of his prospect, big deal, calling the bot, and the bot is misunderstanding the first name, then saying thanks for calling, exactly what you said, thanks for calling Lily, but because the STT was wrong, instead of saying Lily, he said thanks for calling Lila. And then you hear the CEO laughing, and you hear saying, oh my God, this is so bad, and then hanging up, and the deal was closed. And so they came to us, and actually we did it right, okay? But that's not the point. The point is to say, after exactly what you said, after 5 seconds, the deal was dead, just by testing this thing. So I think you should consider exactly what you said. How do you transcribe it? How do you repeat it? I mean, both things are linked at some point about the precision, or whatever we call it, the accuracy on specific entities, I like to say. So yeah, in the end, when you're doing an outbound call, you know the first name and the last name of the person. It's easier not to get it wrong, right? But when it's inbound, that's a bit more difficult. So it's like closed and open vocabulary. I call it. That's the first thing. And domain specific and versus general, exactly what you said, like enterprise. McAfee is a good example. We developed on our hand. We spend a lot of time, of course, on the model, but the time we spent really like a lot, and it's like counterintuitive, are on two things: the custom vocabulary, how to make it as precise as possible. And it was super hard, I won't lie. And and I think we can still make it better. But for now, we have one of the best, if not the best. And the second thing we spent a lot of time was language detection. My God, it's like a few years ago, there was like the beginning of the war, Ukraine versus Russia, right? And we got some customers that were Ukrainian. We were mistaking Russian and Ukrainian. Ukrainian people get pissed. I can get them, but the reality is like both languages are like close, like 95% something.
Yeah.
And so do you trust only the model per se to do the prediction, or do you have to do a bunch of, like algorithmic tricks to make sure that you do ensemble, like mixing multiple models and decision trees and things like that, to make sure that you don't get those things wrong? Because in the end, being 80% or 90% right is not enough. Like exactly what you said, good enough is not enough in the end. So that's a good example. And people tend to think about the model, but the reality is like probably the enterprise grade is everything that goes on top of the model, actually. The other thing.
Can I ask you a question that like, yeah. I always am curious about this, like for this reason and many other reasons together, right? Like these public benchmarks of ASR systems must really frustrate you. Is that true?
Oh God, you nailed something. So, oh my God, this is such a frustration. I think it's getting better. Open ASR, I made something better with like composite word error rate. So meaning like you mix the word error rate together, but it's very frustrating.
I can imagine most things that your customers care about are not in these benchmark data sets. Things like phone numbers, worse. Email addresses, right? Like not in these data sets whatsoever.
Yes, that's one thing, but even worse. Sometimes it's going to be like, a bit bold or cocky, whatever you say it. But
no, do it. Yeah.
Like we are sometimes better. So I see, like, for instance, we had like those benchmarks that we run on the model. And I can give you like earnings, for instance. It's one data set, like it's about earning calls. I'm sure you know it. These things, for instance, you're going to have the recordings of Samsung earning calls. Samsung is Korean, right? So what you're going to hear is Korean, because it's like a wait room at the beginning of these recordings for the benchmarks, for instance, for earning calls. and you're going to hear some Korean, and then it's going to switch to English and back to Korean and back to English until the CEO joins and the CEO gives the earning calls.
Mhm.
We were having I was looking at the benchmark, and I was looking at the worst word error rate of the data set, and was like, what the hell? The error rate was insane. So I looked at it, and you see the first 5 minutes were the waiting room, and we were doing Korean, English, Korean. We were doing the code switching, right? And then I look at the ground truth, and it was brackets. It was foreign language.
So that was the grand truth. You were supposed to be. The benchmark is expecting you just to transcribe foreign language.
Absolutely, and we were right. And I was like, "What the hell?" I have others it's based on Common Voice. Common Voice is from Mozilla Foundation.
Mozilla.
And the people that are reading this, sometimes they don't even speak the language, and so they read this, and there is the TV in the background, and then it's kind of the person reads, and then they stop talking, and you hear the TV like if it was a second speaker in there, and you do the transcription, and the things penalize you, and then yeah, but that's what was said. How do you blame me for transcribing what has been said? And this is how we found that some of the providers were actually overfitting on the benchmark, because there is no way that some provider were getting the things right compared to the ground truth, because the ground truth was broken. Yes, so we found some providers and things like cache, where the audio has been cached and they see the signature of the thing and they do the transcription exactly like this. So anyways, that's life. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
That's
No, I think for what it's worth, that's Rhyme is today not on any of these public TTS arenas, right? Because it's the same thing. The voice that someone prefers in a web app, right, is not the voice that they're going to prefer when they're at the drive-through window. It's not.
No, absolutely. You're cut the bullshit, back it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so the content marketing. I mean, this is the really nice thing about this webinar is people. I think the one size fits all, right, it's never going to be the approach to modeling that works.
I agree for the enterprise.
Yeah, for the enterprise, right? Because again, good enough is not good enough, and the vocabulary, right, whether you call it keyword boosting, accuracy there is way more important than general purpose accuracy. Way more important. Probably 100 times more important.
And how do you define that in public benchmarks? As you said, you have
it's impossible, actually.
Right? It's impossible because you can't share the customer data. You don't want to do that.
Exactly.
And on the other hand, if you say, oh, we are 99% better than the competition, our internal benchmark, people will say, okay, cut the bullshit. And they're going to say, yeah, I'm 100% better than anyone on myself. I'm happy about myself, and that's it. So I do agree. The things that counts, in my opinion, is A/B testing. That's the only way you can exactly what you did with Domino's Pizza. I think at some point you say, yeah, your competition is using us. This is what they've seen in improvement. I think we can get better. The thing that we need to get better on the STT and maybe TTS provider, because I don't know exactly how you run, but I think we need to have closer relationship in general with people doing A/B testing, people like Rock and people doing the benchmark, because I think this is what's going to talk at the end. Money talks, and if you have less churn or better conversion, that's what counts in the enterprise, not bragging, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So yeah, and about the things going back to the STT, and I'm sure with your experience, especially on low resource languages, you face the same thing because you have less data. There is a big impact on the speakers. People don't realize, but male and female can have up to 20% difference in speech recognition accuracy, which is seems to be huge. And the reason being, you have less women data. Just go on YouTube and see what is the main content out there, and you're gonna see that it's mostly male. For whatever reason, you're gonna have a bias on the age range. Mostly you're gonna have mid-range or people between 20 and let's say 40, something like that, 45. Means that you don't have the elderly people that have not the same prosody. So the prosody is the way you speak, also at the pace at which you speak and the way and the tones. And that's causing problem because if you have a medical appointment system, it's more likely that you can have elderly people. So how do you handle the fact that the endpointing, so the endpointing is how fast you're going to interrupt the person, let's say that. Maybe you shouldn't have the same if it's an old person because they are slower. When they have to state their phone number, that's super hard. I mean, you need to be slower. How do you adapt the system like this? It's not easy, it's not done, it's not solved, but that needs to be solved at some point. The kids, it's up to 40-50% less like quality. It's insane. So I think that's why we don't do TTS. Lily, I'm not going into TTS. I think you have a bunch of stuff to solve on your side. I think I have a bunch of stuff to solve on my side too.
Agreed.
And yeah, people going everywhere. I think it's like, yeah, I always say like, if I have the best engineers coming in the room, where do I redirect them? To TTS or STT? I'm like, yeah, we have so much to do on STT. Let's not bother with the TTS. And we need good partners like you, but honestly, like, let's do a good STT on our side.
Completely agree.
And then the conditions, like mic and noisy environment and reverb. Oh my God, such a pain. We had some emergency call. That's probably the worst ones, to be honest. Maybe, I don't know. I know there are some people handling TTS on emergency call to reduce the time to acknowledge and do a better routing and faster routing. But on emergency calls are the worst one because people are shouting, yelling. You have these sirens in the background. There is a lot of reverb because they are stuck in an elevator or stuck in a car. It's like really like hardcore environment. That's not in the benchmark, as you said, but that's what making a difference. So again, like when you choose as STT or TTS, you need to consider like the environmental condition you're going to operate in. Anyways, going to what a good agent is, and I think is the same on your side, or correct me if I'm wrong, you have what I call the triangle of death. When you need to choose a provider, you can't have everything. It doesn't exist, right? The thing is like, you need to pick two in those three elements in the triangle. Are you looking into quality and speed, quality and price, price and speed? And you need to pick two. Doesn't mean that you won't have the other, but you will have to make some concessions at some point. And so what it looks like in the STT, oops, sorry about that. What you're going to have in the STT, you're going to have the question of latency. Let's say I want to have high speed and low latency. It means that in quality, I'm going to have something that probably is going to cut more often. I'm going to have less context for understanding, and then I'm going to have a bit of a lower quality. Or if I want to have something that is fast with a good price, then the quality is going to be impacted because you're going to have smaller model and smaller model. Sorry about that again. Oh my God, this is not the right day. Sorry about that.
No.
So speed and price will definitely have an impact on the quality because we can't have both and having a high performance model. Our price and quality, then you're gonna have a problem with the speed. I've seen some beautiful model on STT by IBM, but the model is 8 billion parameter, which is probably 10 times more expensive to operate than the one that we have. So yes, it's beautiful. Yes, the benchmark amazing. Can you handle the price for 100 billion of calls in a call center? It won't fit.
No.
So you have to pick two. You have to pick two.
I mean, the dirty secret on the TTS side of things, right, is like the top models in the arena, the least likely to be used.
Oh, is it what you think? Because the quality.
Oh yeah.
Because you have like, let's say, high latent space, like a lot of like weights and stuff, but the price and the speed is gonna be impacted.
Yeah, I mean, like we could do it too, right? Like we train a 12 billion parameter TTS model, and I'm sure it would crush on the arena, but why would we waste our time?
I agree with you. But yeah, I can tell you why. I think we underestimate the impact of the perception of someone hearing their self being cloned with high quality and how they are attached to a brand.
Mm-hmm.
That's one reason that you might want to do that still for the marketing part.
Yes, I think, yeah. It's the same thing as what you're saying, right? It's like if we have limited amount of engineering time, I'd rather build the best Arabic TTS model than build spend a month building a model that's going to like crush some English benchmark.
Absolutely, agreed with you. Arabic is pretty tough, by the way.
Yeah,
In
100%.
oh my god, like, and the market is actually asking a lot for those solutions.
Huge demand. Yeah, huge demand.
Huge demand, but like not ton of data, unfortunately. But your specialty is like low
Collecting data.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, okay, so the end-to-end pipeline. On your side, can you talk a little bit about the TTS, the stream output, and how do you see like the pipeline being? What do you need on your side to make sure that the pipeline goes well? And what are in your experience, the optimal pipeline when it comes to like using Rhyme for a voice agent?
I would say there's two angles to this, right? Like one is that when you have 3 models, and in many cases, many more models, right? In the overall context of the application, the interface between these models becomes really important. I would say 95% of Rhyme customer support burden is some commercial API changed how they did like punctuation.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Like
So,
they change the punctuation model?
like just as an example, like someone might be using like LiveKit or PipeCat, and those frameworks have some assumptions about how they can chunk text that's generated by the LLM and then issue those requests to TTS. And one of those assumptions might be there's this is not the right way of thinking about this, but just as an example, like most sentences end in a period, right? And then there's a space. And then what if the LLM starts generating a period and then 3 spaces? This happens, by the way, sometimes, randomly.
Spaces, what do you mean? Like free
Like,
spaces? Or you mean like hidden characters? Like
like 3 white space characters. Like just as another example, like in French, right? Like the question mark and exclamation point, the convention is to have a space after the sentence and then the question mark, right?
Yes.
Which, by the way, when I learned that, I was like, that's really weird.
In French, every time we have 2 elements in the punctuation,
yeah,
it's gonna be a space before.
exactly. Yeah. And I'm not joking. Like if you apply English logic to chunking, you'll issue the request to TTS to Rhyme without the question mark or the exclamation point.
Because the LiveKit or PipeCat orchestration did the chunking in their own way.
Exactly. Just as an example.
So that's very interesting that you're very sensitive to that, because we had that like sensitivity since the beginning because we are French and our market is so small. So we had to expand to other markets like German, Spanish, Portuguese. And in Spanish, you have the question mark that is at the beginning.
Yeah, upside down at the beginning.
So
yeah, and how are you supposed to predict that at the beginning of the sentence, by the way?
Yep, good question. I never thought about it. Like in the partials, do we have that in the partials? That's a very good question. I know in the finals it's easy because you kind of have
well, finals you can, yeah.
I know you can always like look back, but how many partials do you need? How much time do you need to understand that the tone? I mean, you can do it on the feature of the voice at some point, but I think you need like probably 3-5 seconds to understand it was a question based on the textual part and probably the tone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hardcore. Yeah, never thought about this one.
Very hardcore problem. And for TTS, right, like LLMs are generating tokens, right, one by one. That's how LLMs work. Our customers would love, and there's some models that accomplish this with some amount of grace, to send us those tokens, and then we start generating speech immediately, right?
So you start to generate speech with streaming from the LLM, which is, to be honest, no one is doing it.
To be honest, no one. There are models that accomplish this. Actually, like the French lab QTI. Yes.
Yeah, QTI.
Like QTI, they had this approach to delayed streams modeling, and just spoiler alert, it works better for some languages than other languages, right? And the reason for that is a language like German, right, where the verb in many cases comes at the end of the sentence. How are you supposed to generate speech when you don't know what the verb in the sentence is until like 100 words later. Very hard problem. And so like in reality, no one is doing this in reality.
I was looking at Mira TTS that was released last night, which is a fine tune of Spark TTS. And people were looking for streaming, and I was looking at the pull request, and the pull request was saying, yeah, it's streaming. And then you look at the code, and the reality is like, it's actually generation end to end with like some parsing on the.
Oh yeah, we're like buffering, right? Like a sentence or two,
buffering.
and then generating. Yeah, of course.
Yes,
everyone is doing this.
And the second thing I've seen is customers struggling with the latency on the TTS part. And so because they have some predefined words or predefined like sentences, they're able to do caching, but on their side, not on the side of the provider. Right. So what I've seen like those pain because the latency was like actually eating them up a lot. So
yeah, so on the TTS, those are just a couple examples of like how the interface between these models can be problematic.
So on your side, for your customer, do you do caching or like buffering? Or because you say it's like no one is doing it, do you do it or you don't do it?
We don't do it. I mean, I think the nice thing about Rhyme handling the buffering and caching, we do that on behalf of our customers, right, within the API, because we know we can trust ourselves to determine when to start generation better than our customers do, because they don't know how the model works. How would they know, right?
Yes. So another question is like, how do you achieve like 300? You were mentioning like 300 milliseconds, 200, 300 milliseconds. How do you do that with the generation cycle plus the buffering?
It requires a lot of tinkering. I mean, I think the dirty secret is like, and we'll do a demo here in a minute, but like the dirty secret is like no product is 10 lines of code. No model is just a set of model weights and an inference call, right? And so it requires a lot of clever work that we're always tuning and playing with. And 300 milliseconds, then it becomes a question of like, are we talking about time from first LLM token to audio synthesis? Because I don't think anyone is accomplishing this. Are we talking about end of first sentence to audio? Then of course we can get 100 milliseconds now.
That's exactly the point. Like TTLB, TTFB, etc. So no, the 200 to 300, I think, is end of sentence or punctuation marker that will indicate end of sentence. And how much time does it take to get you there? So you said 200 to 300. That's pretty impressive, to be honest.
And then it really determines that it's not TTS time to first byte, but LLM inter-token latency, right? Like how fast can that LLM generate a sentence?
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Okay, cool. So much information. I guess
a lot of information.
I have one that is for everyone there that I'm a bit like scared of is LLMs are, so there is a difference between STT and TTS. The thing is like when you have STT, that's the real life, the ASR will converge to what has been said, okay? Pretty deterministic output, okay? The problem of the LLMs is like you have non-deterministic output, right? With like, let's say the variations can be super high. So how does it work when you have GPT 5.2 that is released and your customer are switching to GPT 5.2 and you start to have like dashes everywhere or spaces and stuff like that? How do you handle those things? And how do your customer handle those things?
They ask us for guidance. In all honesty, and sometimes we see things we've never seen before. Sometimes we see things that we've seen many times before, and we can provide guidance. But yeah, I mean, we take a pretty, again, like an average Rhyme customer is making or receiving hundreds of thousands of phone calls a day. Like it really behooves us to understand what these LLMs are doing and provide really consultative guidance. Because everyone's figuring this out as we go, right? Like we are not experts on commercial LLM behavior. And we're learning alongside our customers, just like they're learning alongside us.
So you have them like set up some A/B testing framework at some point to say we're gonna test.
I mean, not just that, but like we'll learn for what it's worth. Like there's behavior that we patch in TTS that before we patch it, we're like, hey, to our customer, like, can you please prompt the LLM to do this? we're going to fix it so it happens no matter what. But in the meantime, please, you have to prompt the LLM to output like an email address like this. And by the way, that's an amazing thing about LLMs is that they're pretty flexible, right? It used to be the case that like there was only one way of saying an email address, right? And if you're doing it programmatically, like, and you weren't pronouncing an email address correctly, it was a huge problem. There's no fix other than TTS. So I think the really interesting thing about this end-to-end pipeline is how flexible it is, right? I don't know if you see this too, right? Like the LLM, in many ways, like both more and less forgiving of, in some ways, for STT errors too. Do you think that's true?
I don't know.
I don't know either, actually. Like in some ways it could be true, in some ways it could not be true, right?
I think STT is brutal.
Yeah.
In my opinion, is TTS for general purpose is more forgiving, right? Because people don't have the conversion rates and stuff like that. And you say, okay, it's good. And you keep accepting this. I think on STT, if you get like a comma wrong, people is going to yell at you all the freaking time.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know, to be honest. Like, I don't know what's LLM in the middle. What do we accept? What don't accept? We don't accept. I feel it's more forgiving in both sides. On your side, it's more forgiving than your side and my side. Because on your side, on enterprise grade, if you get the conversion down, people is gonna kill you. On my side, if I get like a name wrong, people is gonna kill me.
Right.
And I think in the middle, they can do pretty much, we can accept and say, oh, it was the prompt.
Yeah, right, that's true.
Maybe we print it not correctly, or maybe it's like, you know, entropy and the top K. You are forgiving them and blaming yourself for not setting the right parameters on our side should work out of the box.
Yeah.
So I feel it's more forgiving on the LLM part.
Makes sense.
Okay, well, let's talk very quickly about PMF. I would like to hear your thoughts on where do you think the market is going, what entrepreneurs should do, and not only entrepreneurs, I'm seeing like big companies working on voice agents. What are the things that don't work, the do's and the don'ts on the business side and also on the tech side?
I think the most ambitious customers that we have, and therefore the most successful teams that we work with are solving big problems, right? There are big problems in vertical use cases, and there are big problems in horizontal use cases. And what I mean by horizontal, right, is like take troubleshooting. Like, you know, one of our customers handles tech support, right? For like not just one company, but many companies and many product lines. You can imagine how hard troubleshooting is. Like you don't know when someone's calling about their iPhone or their headphones or their refrigerator. And this company handles troubleshooting and tech support for every single one of those use cases.
And what is
very hard problem?
What is the conversion on their side, like the NPS or like a closing rate versus a human?
I don't think I personally, I mean, we'd have to ask them, but the hope is, right, like we automate many of these use cases with the same level of customer satisfaction that they were getting from a human level expert. I don't know how close we are.
And do they handle those troubleshooting one by one? Or do they have a generalist like way to handle this? Or do they tackle like one and then they handle another one and then another one and becomes the general platform for tech support?
I mean, this customer of ours is, I mean, they're incredibly strong technically. And so it's my assumption that they're tackling it from every possible angle, but I think there's a lot of specialization going on, right? I mean, it goes without saying, like, you can't just drop the product manual for an Samsung Galaxy S20 into an LLM and then have it rip. Like, I don't think anyone would find success in doing that. And so for what it's worth, that's why it quite literally is easier to do something vertically. And so in healthcare, for example, right, like both inbound and outbound, there's very few things that people are actually doing in these phone calls, right? They're scheduling appointments, they're asking for advice. You can't give medical advice over the phone. They are rescheduling an appointment, they're asking a question about insurance, right? Like those kinds of things it goes without saying. It's just like any other problem space. The more constrained the problem space is, the easier it is to solve.
And it's kind of counterintuitive because people think that in general that building a platform a bit like Vapi or Pipecat or like it's going to be the gold mine and it's going to make a lot of money because you can solve pretty much any problem with your platform, right? So I can orchestrate anything. And the problem that I think that by doing everything, you do nothing in the end. So
yeah, I would agree with that. And again, like and we serve some of these platforms, but like the fastest growing horizontal platforms, the dirty secret is they're handling tier 1 customer support, right? Like FAQ type things.
So you think there is a big verticalization in the use case of customer support? That's
yeah, like if you're doing troubleshooting, that better be the only thing you're doing, right?
Understood. So the successful team that you mentioned, what do they optimize first?
I think they would have to optimize, right? For like, they're taking very piecemeal approach, right? It's like, the first step they took was, can we ask like 3 or 4 questions? We're not hoping to automate this call. We just want to gather information before we hand it off to a human agent, right? If they were under the delusion, and they're not, that they could fully automate from day 0, they would have failed a long time ago.
So there were, let's say, AI IVR.
Yeah, exactly. Like a triage, it's triage, right?
Triage and AI triage. And with that, they learn the cases, they learn the distribution, they started to listen to the calls, and then...
Exactly. And then, right, like at scale, you ask 3 questions, you're already saving a lot of time and money, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And people are happier because when they get transferred to the human agent, that human agent already knows what they're going to ask about.
Absolutely.
And then you ask 4 questions, and you ask 5 questions, and you ask 6 questions, and what do you know? You're fully automating something.
And you don't have the problem of falling into like press 1, and you have basically 9 choices, right? And every time, and it's not like fully into the one that you want, and then you're kind of stuck in an IVR where you don't like have a say on this, and you press 0 like 1,000 times to try to get to the human. That's the most frustrating thing. I think AI has a big place to be taken there, saving a lot of money and times and frustration for the users. What is the most common mistake teams do when they build the voice agents, according to you? There are people like starting companies in the chat. What is your recommendation for them to avoid those common mistakes?
It's just like any other software, right? Like ship fast, talk to your users. There's no secret to this, right? I think the successful teams building voice applications in 2025 have the same analytical and ethnographic approach that any successful software team or modeling team for that matter has, which is they ship something, they get feedback extremely quickly. If you can optimize for your velocity of feedback and the velocity of acting on that feedback, that literally is the only thing you can optimize for.
So the common mistake is like thinking too much, not putting the things in front of a customer or in front of a real life problem, and not ingesting feedback fast enough.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Break and repair. Okay, thank you so much for taking the time on this topic. Now we have a quick demo.
Let me share my screen. It's so funny doing a demo talking about enterprise voice applications, because it is quite literally easier than ever to build a demo. And the demo that I have spun up here is, there's a GitHub repo here, rhyme-gladia. And it quite literally, using LiveKit makes this very easy. We have here, this is it, right? And we're gonna call Gladia. We're gonna call OpenAI, and then we're gonna call Rhyme. And we're gonna use some other models, right, in the mix. LiveKit makes this very easy. Is a successful enterprise voice application 95 lines of code? No, it's not. And by the way, like successful voice applications, they're logging into Gladia, right? They're logging into Rhyme. They're doing things in our platforms. And So this is kind of sort of intellectually dishonest of me to show, and at the same time, like worthwhile showing how easy it is to get started. How are you doing today? I'm good. I'm giving a webinar right now. I'm talking with a colleague. Anyway, you get the idea.
We
That's as
didn't
easy as it is.
unfortunately we didn't get the audio. I think you can't share the audio when sharing the screen. I didn't thought about that before.
This is classic audio demo problems.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Clone the repo.
Hey, clone the repo. Try. Do Rhyme have a free tier or some ways to get like some credits, free credits to start with?
Definitely, yeah. You can sign up for an account. You get free credits, easy.
So maybe we can like send afterwards the way to get your API key for Rhyme, giving the repo and giving how to get an API key for Gladia and how to set up and do demo on your side and have fun like Lily had.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate. Don't hesitate to ask your question if we have a bit of time.
Yep, it looks like we do have a few questions already coming in. So the first one was from Charlton, and they asked, do you have recommendations for British female voices? We struggle to find voices that sound natural and don't sound like an American trying a British accent.
We definitely do. I would encourage you. I don't know the names of these voices off the top of my head, but I would encourage you to go to Rhyme, log in. We have a filter. You can just simply filter by British accent. Oh, I do know one. It's Vashti. Vashti is a really amazing Rhyme British female voice.
Okay, great. Let's see, what's the next question? So we have another one. How does Rhyme fit into the agent building space? So this person's saying that they're currently using 11 Labs for our agent builds. Can they connect Rhyme on prem model via the 11 Labs UI, or does Rhyme have their own agent for like creation, deployment, analytics platforms?
The answer is quite simply no, right? Like the reason why 11 Labs wants to build an agent product is so that you also use their models. Does that come with a lot of problems? Yeah, it comes with a lot of problems. I think, in that way, 11 Labs is trying to compete with these open source frameworks to create vendor lock-in, like a LiveKit or a PipeCat. And so, no, in all honesty, the answer is no. I think what they're going to realize, this is my own personal belief, is that there's less value being at the application layer, right? The horizontal application layer than people might think. And so if you want to use Rhyme, I really encourage you to look into things like LiveKit or PipeCat. You're going to be able to accomplish so much more than you are in the 11 Labs agent platform.
That's to be honest, the learnings that we have from all of our customers. Despite being extremely interesting platforms, such as like we mentioned, like the horizontal ones, usually people start. It's good for proof of concept to have a demo to raise your business angel round on a specific topic and have a few things like this. But what we've seen is that as you scale, you want to have control because things are getting more and more complex. You have a bunch of conditions that are hard to handle with a generalist platform, usually. And what we've seen is people, forking, even like I've seen people forking like very deep PipeCat. And we had some people there. Remember, like CC, like was 1 or 2 webinars ago, people were forking PipeCat. You have better like control over the processes, Python processes, or like having better control on the custom logic, etc. But as we said, the one size fits all is hard to differentiate on the long run, and probably not it's a good side project, or it's a good like pet project, but that's not going to be production grade on the long run.
Yeah, and it's not unique to 11 Labs, right? Like the UI based voice application builders, I would say, have like, in my personal experience, just talking with customers, and of course we're talking to builders, they're, for this segment of people who want to build a really high quality enterprise application, I think it's close to 100% churn rate off of these platforms today.
Yes, and to be honest, it's the same as, I mean, I love Lovable. It's perfect for me, like trying and doing those things. But would you be able to scale Lovable at, like, I don't know, 100,000 like sessions in parallel? Probably not. It's very unlikely. You can have security concern. There are already some people like bragging on Twitter saying how much money they made with Lovable, and then you have someone with a screenshot that just hack your application, man. Enjoy your flight. And maybe you've seen it, Lily. It was like 2-3 days ago. But what I mean is, like, it's exactly the same thing. Would you trust Lovable to scale infinitely with your customers and to price, I don't know, McDonald's or like Domino's or whatever, to get your customers to this platform? Or would you like think that you should probably write that to scale on the long run? And I think you already know the solution. And it's the same with voice interfaces. At some point, you need, there is no free lunch theory. That's what you said.
Free lunch, yeah.
There's no free lunch. Like, I'm not a native, but I got this one very
You
quickly
did.
when I started the company.
All right, great. Thank you both. Let's see. It looks like there's just a few more questions. So the next one's a roadmap question. What's the roadmap for pushing Rhyme's TTS latency even lower? So like below 100 milliseconds time to first byte, in cloud for ultra responsive agents when combined with Gladio's sub 300 millisecond speech to text.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Like ping between, like network ping between Oakland and Paris is round trip going to be higher than 100 milliseconds.
It's around 150-ish.
Yeah. And so it's a tall order in cloud. It just goes without saying. I think the really interesting things that a lot of these platforms, like today, there's some I can't mention, but like some I can, right? Like as of today, you're going to be able to hit our models within Together AI's platform. So like you can spin up a GPU wherever Together has GPUs and then hit it wherever you are, right? When we talk about like in-model latency, we're already at 100 milliseconds, below 100 milliseconds. Even for, it's like Arcana V3 will come out in January. It will be at a sub 100 millisecond time to first byte. I again, like, and by the way, like, this is not the right thing to be saying as like a model builder, but like there is such a thing as too fast in customer experience. Like I talked to
as too fast, or there is a such thing as
there is such a thing as too fast.
Yeah, can you develop that? Because for now, I've never seen someone complaining of something being too fast.
I know. I think I might. This is an opinion I hold today. I might be proven wrong, but I call some of our customers who are running. I call that, I just call and see what it's like to call our customers voice applications, and sometimes they're so fast it feels weird. Like,
oh, you mean like talking, like the
yeah.
Okay, I get it.
No, not the talking speed. I mean, it's so fast to respond that it feels like it didn't listen to me.
Oh, okay. So it's not an interruption, but it's pretty close to interruption.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, counterintuitive things. Same as like have the best AI that can solve everything, and the AI that gets, I'm going to push you to the specialized expert. It's the same of philosophy. Sometimes human brain is interesting.
I think many people would take the under on the feeling that like latency is already good enough. But anyway, point being, Laurent, like we're already there. I think cloud makes it really hard. I think what's really exciting to us is partnering with infrastructure providers that make it possible to access Rhyme's models anywhere in the world.
The thing about the latency, I would not totally agree with you. My argument being,
perfect.
if you're fast, that's amazing. It leaves me more room for reasoning on the LLM part.
True. It's all a game of trade-offs too. Yeah. No free lunch.
No, I mean, everything that you gain on one side, I would put that in the middle.
Yeah.
Be smarter rather than like shooting it right away.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, we agree then.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Okay, really cool. I really like what you did. And I can tell you from a model provider to another, what you did, like with on-prem, is super hard. People don't realize, because people think, okay, I can do the same with the open source. I can package that in a container. The reality is like way harder than that, because there is a bunch of things that you want to have with, like the WebSockets, for instance. Maybe you don't run in WebSocket. Maybe you have like HTTP or gRPC.
Oh, we do. We have both. Yeah.
You have
All
both.
the above.
You need to host like your WebSockets, and then you need to host like on our side, like there are some bunch of like other models, and you do ensembling and all these things, and it all needs to fit into one container. Plus, if you ship it on-prem, you need to ensure that you have security, and avoid leakage of model, leakage of code, and stuff like that. And so the orchestration into one container is just a technical, to be honest, a technical challenge that you did manage to get. So congratulations on that. It's very hard. I recognize the difficulty of the engineering part on this.
I appreciate that. It is extremely hard.
Pretty cool. Do we have other questions, CC?
Looks like there's just one more question, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. But the question is, how is it possible to have an agent giving insights in real time in a sales call, like textual ones for an opportunity, for example?
What do you think, Jean-Louis?
I think it's doable. I do it. Sometimes I handle negotiation this way.
Yeah.
I think it's doable. You need to, exactly what Lily said, there is a question of network. There's a question of chunking and knowledge base. So I think the first thing is like, which data do you want? How do you chunk the data? Where do you store the data? Which storage provider or which database, vector database do you choose? Or if you want to have a vector database, could be like a Postgres also with pgvector, and it would work like perfectly, or it could be even Elasticsearch or other things that are not as hype as vector database, but are like being proven to be extremely, extremely efficient. Elastic is very good. And then, yes, maybe you can have TTS. I've seen some people in call centers having what is called Whisperer. So basically, they have Whisper in their earphones, and then it's helping them to tell what you say to the customer. It happened to work, but now with, like, as you said, like maybe like putting the battle cards on the screen. I've seen many sales products starting to do that. I think about Cluely, for instance. It's a tool. It's not like professional tool per se for call centers, but it's the kind of thing they do. And I think we're going to get there at some point, but not only for call centers. I think it's going to be for all our life, to be frank. Maybe you don't like it. I don't know, Lily. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm agnostic, I suppose. I don't know. We'll see. I think that's my approach. I mean, it's definitely possible. People are building this for sure. And in particular in the call center, right? Like agent assist, call it. Already live and has been live for years, probably.
Can you imagine the life when someone tells you something and you're like, no, because on December 12th, 11 p.m. and 55 minutes, you exactly said those words because the thing was popping. Our life will be miserable. I don't
like that personally. Yeah.
No. You shouldn't bring that home. That's going to be a problem.
Agreed.
Okay. Thanks, Cece.
Right. Yep. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and leave it there then. Again, thank you guys for joining and sticking with us for over an hour. And also thank you, Lily, for joining us too. I really appreciate all of your insights. We did record this webinar, so we'll send it out to you as soon as it's available. And then, of course, in the meantime, if you have any questions, you can reach out to either us at Gladia or Rhyme. So that's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you, guys. See you.
Thank you so much.